Birth trauma is very underrated, but it's happening literally everywhere, specifically and especially with us Black women. So I had a high-risk pregnancy with placenta accreta, but what I didn't know was how fast it could spiral. At just shy of 31 weeks pregnant, I noticed bleeding. So I went to my local hospital because it was the closest. Now, my thoughts were, if it was bad or if it was something serious, they could just transfer me, right? So they ran all these tests, they checked my cervix, and they told me everything was fine. So I was discharged. About 48 hours later, things got worse. So this time, the first thing I did was go straight to the high-risk hospital. But what they told me shook me. The cervix check they did at the other hospital, turns out with placenta accreta, you're not supposed to get your cervix checked, because not only can it send you into preterm labor, but it can also cause a uterine rupture. And that's exactly what happened. I was in preterm labor. So because of the placenta accreta, I didn't get the regular C-section cut. I had to get cut up and down vertically. I mean, it was major. So after they delivered my daughter, she was only 2 pounds, and I didn't even get to hold her, y'all. Like, they rushed her straight to the NICU. Meanwhile, I'm stuck upstairs. And for those of you that don't know, when you get a C-section, they usually have you like try to get up and walk that same night. I could not walk. What's crazy is my entire time, being up there after having the C-section, I kept telling, the staff, like, my incision doesn't feel right. It feels like it's going to rip open. Like, I just knew something wasn't right. And 3 different doctors looked at my incision, y'all, and all of them said the same thing. The pain is normal. You got cut a different way, so it's gonna feel a little bit more uncomfortable. You're gonna be a little bit more painful. And they were basically saying like everything was fine. So I tried to push through, but even up until the day they discharged me, which was 4 or 5 days later, I still could not walk, y'all. I mean, I was still in so much pain. I literally could not even walk to the NICU to be with my daughter, and she was only a floor below me. I had to be wheeled there. And then the NICU itself was overwhelming. The machines, the alarms, my tiny baby hooked up to all these different cords. I mean, it was a lot. On top of that, I was still in college. I was trying to keep up on exams. I mean, I'm literally taking Zoom calls at her bedside. Okay, so recap. Cervix check sends me into preterm labor, which then causes me to have an emergency C-section vertically, which then causes my daughter to have to go to the NICU because of how early and little she was. Okay, so day 6, discharged, sitting bedside, doing schoolwork, and then I feel it. I look down and my stomach ripped open, y'all. And that moment changed everything. Because now, not only was my 2-pound baby fighting for her life, but so was I. So when my incision opened, I was sitting bedside with my daughter in the NICU. I was alone in the hospital. My mom, my boyfriend, and the rest of my family was back home taking care of my other kids. There was blood everywhere. The nurses came in, they rushed me upstairs to labor and delivery. At this point, I didn't feel any pain. I was definitely in shock. Honestly, it felt like relief because I had been telling them for days, my stomach literally feels like it's going to rip open. So anyways, once upstairs, They let me know that they would be examining the incision to see if I needed surgery. Now, what I didn't know was what they were going to do to determine that. They used this long Q-tip type instrument, and I'm not kidding, it was about this long, maybe even a little bit longer. They inserted it in my wound, and they did not numb me. Now, I have a very low pain tolerance. All of these things were documented in my chart already. And not even just that, but this was, at this time, my third pregnancy that I had with this hospital. There was specific medication documented in my chart that helped the pain, and medications that didn't seem to work for me for my previous pregnancies. There were 4 people in the room. The main doctor was the one who performed the procedure without numbing me. And I think what scared me the most was this woman looked me directly in my face and seen how much pain I was in and kept going. The midwife that was standing next to me literally stopped the procedure. She looked at me and she seen how much pain I was in and she stopped it. So they all leave the room and I'm terrified at this point. I text my mom. I'm frantic, like, Mom, please get here because I feel like they're trying to kill me. Next thing I know, the midwife comes back in the room. This time she's alone. No one is with her. She grabs my hand and she says, what they just did was not right. She said, I'm going to stay here with you and I'm going to advocate for you until this is done. I felt like God had sent me an angel. And so after this, the others come back in and I instantly start to panic because at this point, I don't trust y'all. Where's my mom? So I start to panic. I'm calling out for my mom, and next thing I know, I'm waking up from surgery. So the next day, that same doctor comes in to check on me, and I explained to her how traumatic the experience was and, how I just felt like I wasn't a human, and, how she looked in my face and didn't stop even when knowing I was in excruciating pain. She took no accountability. Instead, she reframed it as something I needed. Because she had fixed what was wrong physically, everything that led up to that second surgery, it didn't matter. My pain didn't matter. The fact that I was not numbed didn't matter. The rest of my hospital stay and my daughter's hospital stay was traumatizing. After that, my only focus was getting my daughter out of that hospital alive. And she did. She made it home. But I was never the same. I fell into severe depression. I had suicidal thoughts. I acted on those suicidal thoughts. I spent over a month in a behavioral health center. I did try to file a lawsuit, but because I was considered healthy, no one would take my case. I had one lawyer tell me, if you would have died, we might have had something here. If I would have died, I would have had a case. I kept thinking, we keep talking about health, but what about my mental health? This experience didn't just change my body, it changed my life. I didn't come out of this experience whole, but I did come out alive, and I'm grateful. And learning how to live after trauma while being a mother it's its own journey.